Orleans. High Energy, an incredible new album from K-Tel.
Available at Kmart.
Kmart. Kmart. Yes, it is.
I can't wait to ship my trout.
Have you seen this?
I think they're gifting out.
Gifting out?
Definitely gifting out. Look what they scored at Kmart.
Your saving place makes saving nice with quality at a Kmart.
They're smart, and there's Kmart Smart.
They got ranges, heaters, power tools, they got TV, toasters, waiting pools, they got hi-fi hammers, hoses, rakes, they got all the very finest makes. Stop and shop at Kmart, get the best in name brand merchandise. They guarantee the quality and discount the price. They got washers, dryers, bassinets, they got sprinklers, toasters, wire nets, they got broilers, records, vacuum cleaners, barbecues to roast your wieners, ranges, heaters, power tools.
Oh, hey gang, welcome back to the show. You know what's one of my biggest fears, everybody? The fear that soon everything that I've ever known will soon become a dated reference and nothing more. Just look at everything that you're seeing right now. Don't you have like some sort of valuable connection towards it? Or is all of this just meaningless and meandering junk? And do you have this sentiment where when you're on your deathbed on your last legs and you're trying to tell your grandkids of the future generations about everything you see, and they're not gonna understand the clue about what you're talking about? I kind of feel like I suffer from this thing already. And running a web series about talking about stuff nobody understands is definitely hurting me in that area. Still, I haven't done anything wrong. I haven't done anything wrong to set my finances back. I wasn't the last participant of the party to jump on the online shopping bandwagon. At least I'm not like Kmart. Fuck! That was my reaction to the fact that most of you don't know what a Kmart is. Allow me to explain. Kmart was once the biggest operation of general retail stores in the United States. Founded in 1899 by this guy, Kmart began to grow popular in the 1960s thanks to its offerings of affordable commodities like barbecues, home electronics, and especially groceries. Throughout Kmart's continued growth around the country and soon the world, various trademarks became attributed to the store, the most iconic being the Blue Light Special, and yes kids, it's completely safe to Google. The Blue Light Special was an in-store promotion meant to tell you what the hot item on sale was for that day you were in the store, because the Blue Light Special guy on the intercom is either you shop smart or you shop Kmart smart, or whatever that means. Kmart finally began to see its growth stagnate around 1994, thanks to the sunrise and competitor chains such as the modern-day Target and Walmart, in addition to failing to provide what those stores already could. What's this? Walmart stores are bigger than ours? Let's create big Kmart! Costco is a superstore? We can be that as well! We're super Kmart! Sega wants to sue us over not selling enough Dreamcast! That actually happened. I'm not joking. The start of the 21st century was when Kmart began to inch towards the endangered species list. The biggest thing to occur to Kmart Corporation was in 2004 when it merged with Sears Holdings to bind the two now struggling retailers under the same roof to prevent Kmart from going after business after filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in January that same year. Despite the merger, it only managed to kill both companies at a constant yet still equally slow rate. By 2009, it was near impossible to see somebody shopping for deals at a fucking Kmart. Nobody needed them anymore. They could just get their fix for deals, cheap clothing, and video game demos at the other store. And by 2014, things finally hit an all-time low. It's around this time frame where I have the most vivid memories about going to Kmart, as well as their shitty advertising campaigns that didn't stick. Like, yeah, the floor was starting to look like crap, and the clothes aren't anything to write to home about, but I still wore them anyways. Yet even with my mom's contributions towards trying to get this company's net worth out of the negatives, it was all for nothing. As in January 2019, Kmart Corporation filed for bankruptcy for the second time. The decision was met with the biggest round of store closures in the company's history, with over 140 closures announced by the end of that year, including the one that I would get to go to once every 2 to 3 years. Why is Kmart's history important to what we're going to be talking about today, you might be asking? Well, given how insane of an experience visiting a store on its last legs can be, you know damn well I wanted to go to Kmart before it was gone forever. But there was one little problem. My local Kmart was now gone. How else was I gonna get my fix? Well, by 2022, there were only 3 known Kmart locations still operating in the United States. One was in Miami, Florida, the second was in Bridgehampton, New York, and the third was in Westwood, New Jersey. Given that this was around the time that my sibling was getting ready to go to college in New Jersey, I felt that this was the perfect opportunity to finally get this off my bucket list. So come join me, as on today's issue of the show, I'm gonna tell you all about my experiences going to the last Kmart in the entirety of the world. I mean New Jersey. Not even close to noon, but the 40-minute car drive up has ended, and I finally lay my eyes upon the elusive Kmart. I proceed to make my way into the establishment, and it's about what I was expecting. Quite literally nothing has changed about this place, besides there now being more desperation. But now, let's go beyond the entrance and go to our first aisle of choice, clothes. We've got some iconic pony brand flip-flops, or slippers, or whatever type of footwear this is. I almost never wear anything that's sneakers nowadays, so of course I don't need to be putting ponies on my feet. I like to see flip-flop, try that. Next, a lot of red shirts, followed by some pink shirts, and some dinosaur shorts, or trunks. I think my style of fashion is too obvious, which is why I wasn't really big on clothing, and especially not Kmart clothing. What? Then the rest of the shirts. Literally nothing caught my attention because all of the shirts were single colored and had no interesting design, at least the ones that you're seeing right here. The clearance was full of a lot of swimwear and other summer goods. I'm guessing nobody wanted their 4th of July inventory, given that I went in August. To be fair, I wouldn't want to be caught dead wearing most of this stuff either. After clothing, I pointed out the sporting goods section, having not sporting goods for sale, and decided to investigate further. What was actually on sale on one side of this aisle was a bunch of baby toys and DIY kits for kids. You know, the ones where they try to sell you oobleck or slime with stuff like glitter to try and make it more appealing to a specific gender. On the other side of this aisle were more recent toy lines, namely ones introduced at the tail end of the 2010s. The kinds of toys you can find at Dollar Tree, summer movie tie-ins to film that either aren't good or bombed, Hot Wheels, and lots of unsold inventory that's clearly been rotting on the shelves for years. I kinda knew that was gonna be here given that, you know, nobody shops at Kmart, but looking back, I don't think I realized just how severe it was gonna be. It was definitely when I came across a sun-bleached Cars-themed study kit that I began to get a better sense of how much unsold inventory from shopping seasons past I was gonna come across, as well as get my hopes up. Right next to the Hot Wheels and Car study kit were some Lego sets. Everyone loves Lego. The selection of sets, nothing to bug your parents over. The Legos then blend back into more general action figures, masks, and RC toys based on Star Wars, and for some reason, Overwatch. I used to have a remote-controlled BB-8 toy an aunt gifted me that didn't work, and wouldn't shut off after my sibling poured water on it. I only got rid of it earlier this year. Given that I'm a toy collector, it only makes sense that I would check out the girls' toy section, which was conveniently right next door, and besides the trading car stand deep. Not sure why that was there. The first side of this aisle was more of the same stuff as the boys' toys, namely Play-Doh and other DIY shtick like bead-making kids and tea party packs. Then it went to a bunch of stock for this line of collectibles called mini brands, which is basically being able to own mini toy version of pretty much any and all item, usually food. Given that I had a history of making toy videos, I did at one point consider getting these. However, I went against it as I felt like it was cheating, and that if I wanted to use a mini pack of Reese's in a toy video, it had to be like custom made and not something you could buy at Walmart. The next side was also more of the same, being unsold inventory for JoJo Siwa stuff, lines of collectibles, and more kit stuff. Surprisingly, a lot more of that was present here than the last aisle. It was in the next aisle where I had that more authentic girls aisle experience, starting things off with the baby dolls, which for some reason came in 2 sizes. Do you want to raise a life-size baby princess, or a baby princess you can fit in your pocket? Then we get into regular doll territory with both Barbie's competitors and ripoff artists, right underneath the actual Barbie. No clue who Madison is or why it's beach time. Rainbow High is a more recent competitor that I distinctly remember getting into a recent controversy over how its gimmick of being racially ambiguous ended up resulting in a racist toy. for the actual Barbie dolls, they're about what you'd expect. Who knows how long those specific dolls have been on the shelf. Same goes for those Mulan and Aurora dolls. They were also selling finger puppets of DC characters for some reason. Like, wouldn't those have made better sense to put in the other aisle with all the baby stuff? In fact, there was a lot of baby stuff right next to the dolls, but I guess it's either that or getting one of those chapstick packs. On the other side of this aisle are some more dolls, but then a lot of random plushies of characters that I either don't recognize or are public domain. I'm guessing the latter. Then suddenly shit becomes Nerf gun territory. What a bizarre, poorly structured lineup. After toys, I went through an aisle with nothing but more button-up shirts. The world could use more of them. Over on these back aisles were some more toy collectible series, race cars, and board games. When did they give Jimmy Fallon and a guy in a suit their own board game? Then after that comes an aisle for travel equipment, mainly children's suitcases, tents, the occasional table, and lawn chairs. I also came across an aisle selling nothing but coolers. After that, I checked out the literature aisle. Kmart is not the only store that suffers from this thing, but why do so many department stores have the most hastily put together book aisles? You get this unorganized mess of kids' books, novels, magazines, and fun packs. The first section of this aisle was nothing but fun packs and coloring books. After that comes what I was talking about, an unorganized combination of kids' books, cookbooks, and comic books geared towards audiences that are definitely not kids. Oh look, an empty shelf! I wonder when I'm gonna count another one of these while I'm here. The book aisle, as expected, was double-sided, and filled with some more kids' books, a copy of Connect Adventures, and basically more of the same. Is this a testament to the current state of the print world, or is just a way of telling me that nobody's buying their books at department stores? My money's somewhere in the middle. After that, I began skimming through all of the aisles that are for necessities and what people would go to a department store for, so nothing that was necessarily exciting or noteworthy. But I did make sure to give you guys your windshield washer fluid fix. Can't live without that. Now onto the tools with the premier Craftsman brand. Since you guys are uncultured, Craftsman is a brand of tools that was created by Sears and is built off of quality. Given that Sears is also in a slump, they've since sold the brand to SB&D. I still distinctly associate the brand with Sears, however. On the other side of this aisle were some crock pots. Next, I began to make my way to the food sections, starting off with the candy. The selection was about average, but the presentation definitely made things interesting to go through. You've got your usual suspects with the single packs and big bags, but then you also have marshmallows for sale. Like, yeah, those are candy as well, but I very rarely associate them with stuff like my Reese's and my Kit Kats. I did check to see if any of the candy was expired, and surprisingly, this was all new stock. However, I wasn't fully convinced that this would be the case with all of the food items that were for sale, largely in part to past experiences. An ice cream shop once sold me 2-month-old ginger ale. The other side of this aisle was for snack food, so I checked for expired stuff again, and to my surprise, still fresh. Next came the drinks, starting off with a nice, generous selection of Gatorade sitting atop some Hug fruit barrels. If your elementary school ever held field day, you probably remember sipping on one of these. There was a person restocking the shelves here, so I had to be very sneaky when filming, which is why things get really claustrophobic and fast here. But I guess this is what you'd expect, a basic selection of juice and soda. I do come back to it later if you're wondering. Continuing with necessities, they had a large selection of toilet paper, carpet, mirrors, and of course kitchen utilities like this blender. Not sure about all you'll need to roast your wieners. Back onto a larger snack aisle, this is the first flag raised when it came to empty shelves. There was still a decent selection of comestibles on sale, but when you compare it to a more successful department store like Walmart or Target, the presentation is a night and day difference. For more household stuff, they had some ovens for sale for a pretty penny. I'm not in need of an oven right now, so I don't know if this deal is better or worse than what I could find at other stores or online. Not sure why they had to display them in the middle of the detergent aisle. Unsurprisingly, this leads us into the cleaning supplies, where while the empty spaces weren't diseased by any means, they became very much apparent, as if there was something missing from the shelves. This only seemed to apply to stuff like brooms and mops, as the selection of detergent and other types of bleaches was bountiful to say. There's something about this sign they had up that felt rather ironic. Now, nearing the back of the store, the floor became a lot crustier around these parts, and the quality of a tile varied based on where you were. But alas, I came to the first dead end. Surrounding this miniature sea of nothing were more pool and pool accessories, and some grills for sale right next to it. It was really depressing walking through this part because of how empty it was. After that, I made my way to the more pharmaceutical side of the store. Definitely a bleaker sight to see thanks to the empty spaces in the middle of the aisles, though to be fair, any pharmaceutical aisle could give off those vibes if it tried hard enough. At least they had plenty of Advil and Pepto-Bismol stock remaining. Not sure if the dental and hygienic hygienic stuff should be separate from pharmaceutical, but outside of those toothbrushes, not much to them. Of course, you've also got your wide selection of tampons and other period blockers still in stock, because everyone buys those online to avoid the embarrassment. And then to the left of the tampons is the party supplies, full of stuff that's clearly been rotting for at least a good 7 years at this point. Then directly across from party stuff is the makeup, which was without a doubt the emptiest aisle I'd encountered up to this point. And as for what was on sale, it was just the basic stuff you'd expect and obviously unsold stock of holiday seasons past. Do you think you'd ever trust somebody who had one of these Lip Smacker brand lip balms on them? On the other side of the aisle were electronic accessories, namely Android chargers and batteries. For some reason, one of them was loose, and whoever took it out of the package tried to wrap it back onto the hook thing on the aisle. Here in this incredibly wide aisle was a sea of fans, all going for about $50. That's probably considered a steal in today's economy. I distinctly recall being sold 2 box fans for about $60 a pop, but I could be wrong. Still, definitely a better deal than $329 for a portable AC that most institutions don't allow you to have. Not joking! At the end of this sea of air blowers was a ghastly surprise. The garden selection was no more! Underneath the paper sign in the door was a large slab of cardboard to prevent anybody from seeing what once was. I don't really care about gardening stuff, but there's definitely something about seeing something like this that does make you sad in a certain area. I just don't know what. As for other home appliances that surrounded the sea of fans, lots of Kenmore home appliances, many of which in boxes with little to no labeling indicating what you're getting inside. After some backtracking, I made my way to the shoe department, which looked exactly the same as it did the last time I got shoes at a Kmart, which was like, what, 12 years ago? Doesn't look like there were any recognizable brands for sale, like not even Skechers, man. Back onto clothes, here's some more general stuff like jeans and basic tees on sale for prices they tried to pass off as outrageous. As a bonus, here's some footage I caught of that one end of the checkout aisle where all the small candy bars and occasional trinkets were on sale. Not much separating it from the other stores if you ask me, except maybe for that rack of shades. And maybe that mini aisle of soap. Here in this mini island in the middle are some kids' backpacks. I thought they would all be more old stuff, like no more recent than either 2017 or 2018. But surprisingly, most of these were brand new stock made that year. Still, I wouldn't be caught dead with one of those. Would you trust somebody that went to your high school and they had a Lightyear backpack? Or a Miraculous backpack? Not too far from those islands was the cereal aisle, with the standard selection of name brands you're all trained to expect at this point. After skimming through the rest of the basic food aisles, I recorded some footage of the hair care stuff for sale. As with all the other health-related products, mostly the stuff you'd expect any big box store to carry, as well as some empty gaps that were largely getting cornered. Across was shampoo, body wash, and conditioner bottles. See if you find something you like! After some more walking, I made my way back to the home video aisle, which was a goldmine of bizarre release selections. It was mostly old DVDs that had been rotting in the back of the store for probably ages, but they also had some Blu-rays and even some 4K releases. None of the releases were for films that came out after 2018, however. As for interesting titles I found and did not pick up, allow them to flash by the screen. Do you think it was obvious as to why I didn't grab any of these? Now, I wouldn't necessarily say that I was underwhelmed by this section. If anything, I was just taken aback by how stuck in time it was. If anything, it's about as depressing as the physical media sections of Target and Walmart, with how every time I go there, the aisle shrinks and the selection gets worse. So if anything, Kmart's aisle was basically the same experience! On the other side of this aisle were some headphones, generic brand classic style ones to be specific. I'm a Beats wireless earbuds user if you didn't know. They also had some rechargeable batteries and vlog making kits. You know those wannabe gamer accessories and utilities you can find at Five Below at Walmart? That thing's basically the TikTok equivalent. The electronics also bleeds back into the party supplies, where the selection is more of the same. The next aisle was the office supplies selection, which also had back to school supplies up, such as glue, pencil pouches, and Crayola products. Pretty average. Across from it was more necessities in the form of Ziploc bags, paper towels, and paper plates. I made my way back to juice, which was behind this aisle, and now that the guy who was restocking was gone, I could get a better glimpse of things. For starters, this store brand orange soda called Best Yet. Would you drink it? Do you think it's the best of all yet? Or would you stick to your guts and go for the hug barrels instead? The choice is yours in the end. Continuing to retread, at least it was good to see that they had plenty of air freshener, Raid, Swiffers, and toilet paper left in stock. But on to yet another empty aisle. there was practically nothing left for this aisle. This is the one you go to when you need to put up a sign that says private property or no dogs allowed. Also light bulbs and locks as well. But alas, I finally made my way to the emptiest, most depressing area of the store, which I will simply refer to as the dead space. The only things on the shelves here were some lifts to move heavy items like the stoves and the dryers, but I'm pretty sure they weren't for sale. Walking through this part of the store felt like I had entered some sort of forbidden dead zone, where areas were blocked off and could only be viewed if you squeezed your way through. Still, nothing at all, besides this abandoned paper for a Store Guard 2 from 2011. There was also an unplugged, abandoned Pepsi cooler. Beyond it were some signs promoting discounts for nothing at all. Sensing that there was nothing left for me to see, I got out of there. This was the biggest highlight of the entire experience. Walking through an empty abyss of empty shelves was just otherworldly. But take a look at all this camo gear! After that life-changing experience, I found myself walking through the camping gear aisle, where you could get a lawn chair or a tent for 19 bucks a pop. The average tent is, I believe, $40, so that's probably a steal to somebody, just not me. In the corner, not too far from this aisle, were some kids' bikes for sale, aligned in an extremely depressing manner. But right next to it on the wall were a bunch of paper plaques commemorating much of the staff that used to man the ship of this location. Next to it was a hallway that led to the employees only area, which I obviously didn't explore. But at least I got to hear that the bubbler was out of order. I doubt it ever got fixed. Making my way back, I stopped by the poster bin, and as you can tell, none of these posters were for anything recent. That caught my eye. I also don't really care for posters, if that wasn't already known. Afterwards came some more cruising, taking glimpses of the jewelry and hat sections where the jewelry box was desperate for somebody to take what I'm guessing is a 5-year-old tablet home for only 75 bucks. At least there were some nice watches for sale. I don't wear a watch, I just look at my phone like everyone else does. But as for everything else, like clothing and novelty shades, it's what you were expecting to see for a place that's on its last legs. Do you think you guys agree with Kmart when they say that these shoes rock? Back onto clothing itself, the tee selection definitely caught me off guard. Like, yeah, for one, it's all generic stuff that out-of-touch corporate executives think a 7-year-old would find cool, but then you also have this bizarre design of a skull made out of money. I don't know what's up with it, but it looks both funny and goes hard, at least in my opinion. Everything else up for grabs here is stuff that I don't really care for and see everyone else wear. I think for me, I like to wear stuff that's flashy, which is probably why I wear nothing but graphic tees and sweatpants. Surprisingly, nobody was using the changing room, because nobody shops for clothes at Kmart anymore, if at all. The final section of my journey was the baby aisle, because what else was there to save for last? For once, the pattern of the tile flooring changed over here, as now there were black tiles alongside the white ones that plagued the majority of my footage. Still, no sense of a pattern and extremely messy. As for the stuff for sale in the aisle itself, nothing but stuff in boxes, small crap that sells out easily, and big-ass useless junk that just refuses to sell. A staple of any aisle like this. But alas, around here, my journey came to an end. An employee told me that it was okay for me to be filming stuff as long as I didn't record any of the employees, but by this point, I was done filming and ready to check out. So what exactly was the last thing I ever bought at Kmart, you might be wondering? Well, it may or may not surprise you, but all I ended up getting from the store was a single pack of Haribo gummy cola bottles. They melted in the car, but not without good reason. Again, my sibling was in Jersey doing college stuff, so I needed to find something else to pass the time, and I ended up going to a mall in Bergen County and caught a movie. A relatively obscure indie flick titled DC League of Super Pets. And that was my journey to the last Kmart in all of New Jersey. A bit underwhelming, but still a pretty solid experience overall. Now my tone of voice may come off as a bit misleading, and you might think that I thought about this trip as being nothing more than a waste. In reality, that is simply not true, and if anything, I got exactly what I came to Jersey for. Going to a broken down Kmart. Being somebody who got to go to Toys R Us when they were going out of business, I was kinda hoping for something of a similar experience in some areas. And I kinda did get that when it comes to the empty shelves and shit. But even then, the Toys R Us I went to was a lot more lively because, you know, that had a lot more nostalgia to it. And in comparison, Kmart still hasn't gotten a true death certificate yet. The Kmart was also significantly empty, with only like at least 8 people total in that entire store, including myself. There was really only one guy checking the register, and I can't remember if it was a sweet old lady or just somebody who was, working for Kmart, because, who knows, maybe their family was in it. I might be getting that confused with a different memory, so I'm just gonna go with sweet old lady, just, to make things a bit more heartwarming. But still, the biggest comparison was definitely the atmosphere of Kmart. It was just depressing all the way through, especially when I got to the dead space. It wasn't necessarily creepy by any means, but I feel like any and all experience being the only shopper in the store would definitely be unnerving to somebody. I know that throughout this video I've been basically describing essentially the average Kmart experience. And if anything, yeah, it really was basically the same thing as the last time I went to Kmart, which was all the way back in 2017. And yeah, the place back then was only half as depressing, but at least the clothing selection and dry atmosphere were actually a bit more lively than it was here in New Jersey. Same goes for the toy aisle, but I guess that's just what I get for being a collector. But in the end, I managed to successfully accomplish my one main goal with this journey, and that was, again, to visit Kmart one last time. It wasn't underwhelming, and I'm still happy that I even got the opportunity in the first place. But still, you can't really set aside a department store like a deceased loved one. And if there's any kind of word that I can best use to describe the feeling I had when walking out of that Kmart, it would have to be acceptance. The acceptance that this is most likely going to be the last time I will ever step foot in a Kmart for the rest of my entire life. I went in expecting a sludge fest of all trades, and I came out feeling as satisfied as a Kmart smart shopper. While Kmart won't be dead for another 5 years at least, I do think it's best I say my solemn goodbyes to this once infamous department store chain. Goodbye Kmart, your blue light specials, and your horrible advertising will not be missed. Goodbye, New Jersey Kmart. It was nice to meet you. And that's gonna do it for this issue of the show. Join me next time when I talk about something even better than defunct retail chains. See you next time, everybody!